Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to ETrio presents Electrifying Intra-city Logistics. I'm Nabil Khan, and today I bring to you this special discussion session, which is going to raise the most prominent subject of intra-city logistics, which is probably one of the major concerns when it comes to decarbonizing India, when it comes to congestion. So we have very splendid list of speakers today joining in who are going to deliberate on the core of it. Where decarbonizing India, is it really happening in the right direction, or we are just limited to the vision and expectation? How, what are the trigger, what can trigger the intra-city logistics to become electric? How the EV versus ICE engine in terms of total cost of operation is going to play out, how overall the EV ecosystem is going to come out in entire scheme of thing that is unfolding. If you look at the last 1 week, probably it has been one of the most happening or exciting week when it comes to electric vehicles. We have seen state governments like Delhi, Telangana rolling out its policies, which have brought in again another excitement among the EV players or EV people working in EV ecosystem. At the same time, central government has rolled out a massive announcement, which is that you manufacturer can sell vehicles without battery. Please note, battery cost is over 30 to 40% of most of the electric vehicles, and this may give a major booster to the EV adoption or EV sales. However, there are some people who still think this can create a lot of confusion. We'll find out what's actually going to happen amidst all this announcement. We'll also talk about looking at the congestion, what kind of EV design when it comes to vehicle, which segment is it, one tonner, a small three-wheeler, how are they going to shape up the entire electrification of the intra-city. If you look at the major driver when it comes to electrification of intra-city logistics has been largely dominated by shared mobility, where three-wheelers played a massive role. If you look at 2019, over 600,000 electric three-wheelers were registered. That means, but now shared mobility is not that attractive proposition. So people will certainly move towards logistic, and that makes sense because of the spike in delivery business. If you look at Big Basket or Flipkart or Amazon or those kind of e-tailers have given boost to huge delivery vehicles. And in delivery earlier used to be LCV, but now people suggest that to deliver in the narrow lane, smaller area, three-wheeler can play a big role. So how this market combination is going to work out, we will find out in today's session, which is combined of two panel discussions, and there is a surprise. And the middle of these two panel discussion, there is one company, ETrio, who is sponsoring this, is going to roll out their option in terms of vehicle as they see decongesting the intra-city logistics. Hope you have a great day ahead and you return with heavy dose of understanding and takeaway on this subject. Stay tuned. Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to ETrio presents ET Auto panel discussion on electrifying intra-city logistics. I'm Nabil Khan and I'm joined by a panel of experts. Let me introduce to you Preet Dhupar, CFO, IKEA, Goldie Srivastava, co-founder and CEO, Smarty, Deepak MV, co-founder and CEO, ETrio Automobiles, Mr. Pushkar Singh, co-founder and CEO, Let's Transport, Mr. Arvind Shivakumar, product head, Milk Run and Last Mile, Mahindra Logistics. I'm also glad to have been joined by Mr. Nagaraju KB, Director Innovative Retail Concepts at Big Basket. Welcome to ET Auto panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen. I'll go first to all of you and want to understand your initial remark on the subject. How can we really electrify the intra-city logistics? And do you think this is the only option when we talk about decarbonizing or decongestioning the intra-city logistics? I'll start with you, Preet.
Thank you very much, Nabil. I think just to introduce, IKEA India is still in its initial stages in India, and we have one store operational as of now in Hyderabad, as well as we are doing e-commerce in Hyderabad and Mumbai and Pune. Sustainability is very, very key, in fact, very much ingrained into our agenda, and therefore we've been obviously looking at, right from the start, looking at electric mobility for last mile delivery, and therefore intracity logistics and electric mobility become a part of our agenda as well. Today we are doing a very small percentage of our deliveries through the electric vehicles. And of course, we have an ambition. So globally, our ambition is by 2030, and I think that corresponds also with the Government of India ambition to be to have all our deliveries with zero carbon emissions. So that's where we are. But I also want to confess I'm sitting here amongst a very esteemed panel of industry leaders, experts in the subject, and we are actually the probably the baby here in terms of starting our journey with e-vehicles in India. So I really look forward to this discussion.
So let me tell you that the entire country is still in taking baby steps. So we all are babies in this entire EV ecosystem. So let me bring in Goldie, who has taken some steps. Of course, not in the cargo logistics, but all in the passenger logistics. But how do you see, Goldie, this electrifying intra-city cargo logistics? So what's your initial take on it?
Yeah, thank you, Nabil and Economic Times, for having me on this, wonderful panel discussion, and I would say a very timely panel discussion, coming right few days after the announcement of the EV policy by the Delhi government, as well as the EV policies by Telangana and few other states. I think it's very timely. As India's largest electric mobility services company, we've been obviously moving people, and to be precise, more than 65 million people in the last 5 years. Smarty sort of diversified into the intra-city logistics, or the last mile delivery, using electric vehicles about a year and a half ago, but albeit at a very small scale, essentially to test the waters. It is in the last 6 months, last 6 to 7 months, that we have really ramped up our last mile delivery offering. In fact, if I just talk about the last 5 months from the time I would say the pandemic began, we've done about 1.2 million deliveries and pickups, all in last mile across 6 cities in the country. And we've seen phenomenal growth coming in as far as last mile delivery is concerned, by working with the who's who of client base in the country, who not just appreciate, I would say, the economic value proposition of an electrified last mile delivery, but even more importantly, as Preet was mentioning, and a lot of other organizations whose core ethos include and involve sustainability. For any responsible organization, if sustainability is a core aspect, then there is no other way but to sort of look at sustainability across the entire supply chain. And I think from that perspective, the electrification of last mile delivery and intra-city logistics is a much needed, very imminent, step that players like us are taking in partnership with many of the people who are on this panel and beyond as well.
Rightly put, imminent and very much important to have sustainable or clean mobility in the city, especially when it comes to cargo. Deepak, you are producer of a vehicle. You went on to speed up the process by adopting retrofit electric vehicles. How did the idea came in, and how do you see your journey starting from here?
Thank you, Nabil. Very happy to be a part of such an distinguished panel. At ETrio, our journey started in 2017. We looked at a conversion as a means to not just decarbonize environment, but to also decongest the road. So we looked at this dual impact, and while we started with the passenger car segment, we were quick to realize that it's not just the product. We have to carefully look at each segment of the auto industry to see where the EV adoption can really happen. And we found many of such factors, whether it is the range required, whether it is the charging infrastructure, the organizational commitment and mandates, which we see today. The e-commerce companies, like Preet mentioned, that they have a clear mandate. Similarly, at companies like various other e-commerce companies, there is a clear mandate to decarbonize and electrify their fleet. So we saw all these factors coming in the intra-city logistics space. And that's where our journey really started as an EV OEM. And today, very happy to share that today we are firmly focused, and we have a product portfolio ranging from a brand new electric three-wheeler to electric bicycles to a converted ELCV, retrofitted ELCV. So the range is from a payload of 70 kgs to 700 kgs. So that's where the whole journey is today.
Deepak, you are the only manufacturer in this entire panel. Most of the panel members are users. Let's go back to them and understand what do they really want. I would like to bring you in, Pushkar. How do you see an electric cargo for intra-city? What would be your ideal vehicle, or what is the idea of a vehicle that could serve all your purpose when it comes to congestion, it comes to quickness in terms of delivery, when it comes to decongestioning the city?
Thank you so much, Nabil. Thank you for having me on the panel with all of these panelists who are experts in their own fields. I think it's the right time. It's inevitable to move towards electrification of light commercial trucks. We're in the business of helping enterprises deliver products in and around the city. Typically, think of it as urban distances or regional distances. We work with form factors ranging from about 700 kgs, which is the smaller trucks that you see plying on the road, to a little north of 10 tons, which is about 3 times the size of an Innova, just to give you some perspective. And I think the beauty of urban transportation or intra-city logistics is you have multiple form factors to play at, right? And at the end of the day, all of these trucks are owned by driver themselves. You do not have large fleet operators. So it allows you to tweak different products from an OEM perspective to get to a product which achieves total cost of ownership and pretty much at parity with what your diesel engine would probably offer, right? Where I think the most versatile trucks amongst all of this would be a one-ton truck, which essentially is a smaller truck. It runs a little lesser distances. It also not just runs lower distances, but it also has enough time of loading and unloading, which allows you to charge them pretty efficiently. So to answer your question, I think that's where the disruption will begin. But I'm looking at disruption from multiple places. It could also begin from a 7-ton, 10-ton, right up to 1 ton. So to answer your question, I think we began Let's Transport to lower the last mile distribution cost in India, which by the way is twice that of the average. And the running cost definitely is one of the most critical factors. And with electrification, I think this cost is bound to get disrupted. What together we'll have to focus and probably emphasize on is how do we popularize it amongst the actual buyers who would be the individual truck owners over here.
So I'm happy to see, such a diverse, panel member. Nagaraju ji, I'll come to you. You represent Big Basket. Big Basket is a brand that is operating probably in a very large space. You have to reach across. Your products are very common, probably, and very fast in terms of you have to deliver faster. You have to continuously provide the service. That means you need sustainable product. You need product that will be trusted by you. So in such a scenario, what's your view when it comes to electrifying those intercity logistics? Because you will be a strong force in that. Then I'll come to the Preet and others.
Thank you, Nabil, ETrio, and also ETrio for having me over today. From a Big Basket perspective, we realized almost 4 years ago, right, when we first started taking some steps towards introducing electric vehicles in our fleet, initially with Mahindra's one of those vehicles, first commercial vehicle they introduced, and also with a few other three-wheelers, which was suitable for us. The reason we did that was it was becoming increasingly clear that as Big Basket, an e-commerce company, as you know, we are into grocery delivery and daily essentials. We deliver to hundreds of thousands of customers every day across 26 cities. What we realized was that as we started getting more and more into delivering into residential areas, it is indeed, there was a need for a vehicle which will also blend into the overall ecosystem, meaning you are delivering to residential areas. So ideally should be a non-carbon vehicle if possible. But 4 years ago, we didn't have so many options, but we still realized that it is important. It has to be noiseless because customers wouldn't like to have, too much of traffic kind of situation. Third thing is ideally should be slightly smaller vehicles than what are those which are available around, so that you will not have much of parking issues when you are delivering to houses, right? We realized that therefore there was a need for looking at this using electric vehicles as a very clear strategy going forward. Second thing is, as you know that in our country, most of the cities, especially residential areas, they're not really greatly planned on proper urban planning principles. So you will have a lot of issues if you are trying to use the existing options of maybe 1-tonner, 1.5-tonner kind of vehicles. So we started on that journey straight away. And second important point also is customers themselves, right? Over the last few years, maybe coinciding with the journey of Big Basket, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, are becoming more and more environment conscious. And especially if a grocery can be delivered at their homes in a vehicle which is environment friendly, they would really love it. We realized that it's a very good thing to do it, especially since you are delivering an important item like food and grocery. So we took a very conscious call, and then we got onto it. And I'm very happy to say that we are one of the pioneers in adoption of electric vehicles in the country. We have a fleet of almost close to 300 vans out of our 2,100, which is about 14-15%. It's already electric of multiple OEMs, big and small. And even among the two-wheelers as well, once we started having more kind of express kind of deliveries, even among the two-wheelers also, we started introducing the electric bikes in a very, very conscious way, tying up with players who also have a similar policy and ideas. And we have been successful to introduce close to 400 two-wheelers out of almost 6,000. There, the adoption has not been still big enough, but yeah, we have made a very, very big start, I would say. I can cover more points as we go along.
Yeah, we'll talk about the state policies, also a center's announcement on you can sell vehicles without batteries. That will be a big change, I think, in the sector. Arvind, I would like to come to you as a product head. What is your vision for a vehicle that could solve the problem when it comes to of pollution or congestion? These are the two major problems that we deal with day to day. When it comes to intra-city logistics. So what's your vision around it? How do you envisage a product that will suit your requirement?
First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me on this panel along with such eminent people here. Happy to be here. To answer your question, at least from the perspective, kind of continuing on what Nagaraju sir said, bit of building on what Goldie and Pushkar also mentioned, right? Considering that we fairly work in the same space. So it's also about the fact that, currently the vehicles that are available in the market, the electric vehicles that are available in the market are fairly suited towards little voluminous, but, low weight cargo, right? I think that capacity we might have to look at improving. And also the fact that with this kind of a vehicle, right, you always have a range limit, right? So it could be 80 kilometer limit or 100 kilometer limit. So how to actually shape the ecosystem around it, where we can look at sweating this asset continuously. I think these are the couple of things that I would really want to focus upon in the near term as well, along with the policy part of it, to increase the adoption of these vehicles within the ecosystem.
Thank you. Preet, I'll come back to you once again. See, other players, those who have joined the panel discussion, they have largely, essential deliveries, be it milk or groceries or things like that. In your case, your products are not probably essentials. It doesn't have, that expiry time. Like fruits, if you don't deliver within a day or two, it can rotten, but your products doesn't get rotten. But also, do you have some other idea of logistics, because your volume of the product is different from what these guys have? So how do you idealize, or how do you envisage your product to be? What are your key priorities when you go on to hire a logistic firm or a delivery firm in this space?
Sure. So I think I'll differ slightly from you. I totally agree that our products don't have an expiry date. So it is not like fruits or vegetables which have to be delivered, on the same day, or they will, perish. Having said that, I think in this advanced, COVID space where we're all working a lot from home, I don't know how many of you are, actually dialing in from your homes. I think the definition of what is basic and what is essential actually changes in today's world. And, the longer we continue in this situation, the definition of, essential actually expands. Our business is about home, so a lot of our products, though not subject to an expiry date, are actually important for people, to have at home. And I think then what is also interesting about our range is that we have products like small products to really large volume as well. So what is important for us is a range of, delivery vehicles that can cater to both, small parcels as well as large volume, products. that is what is important for us. And therefore, if if we were to look at a service provider, the time of delivery also is critical for us, because it's not about criticality of it has to be delivered today, but obviously a service provider who's able to then keep up to the promise that anybody is making to the customer. It is about predictability. It is about living up to your expectations and living up to the promise that you're making. And of course, we are talking about electric vehicles, I think.
But expectation of your customers will be certainly different from what probably the customers of big basket or milk run or something of that sort will have. So how do you see your product to be there in terms of business model and all? So that's what I wanted to understand. How different is it going to be compared to
that's what I said. From a business model perspective, it's what is important for us is the range. Okay, so obviously to be able to deliver smaller products as well as large volume products, right? Because our products fall in both categories. If you've ever come to a small store, we also have small products and we do parcel deliveries as well. So you can actually order probably some things that are common to big basket as well from an IKEA store. So that is because the flexibility and the range for us becomes really important. Also, along with that, the ability to predict. And where I was coming to that then is that if you're going towards electric mobility, then then it's also about, is there a robust fleet? If you want to aim to saying 25% of our deliveries must be, through e-vehicles, then is there a robust fleet that the organization has, that they are able to cater to that kind of a target? And an organization who's able to move up, the targets, along with us. This is kind of what becomes important to us.
Thank you, Preet. Deepak, I would come to you now. You have heard all the, people who are users of electric vehicle or the logistic implements, or you can say logistic vehicles used in logistics. Now, what is your idea, your thought? How can you serve those different demands, and how are you planning to do that? And how will an ideal, manufacturer should look at it?
So, Nabil, very happy to share, first of all, that the panel, I think, with the exception of Goldie, are already our clients. So our vehicles are today running at all these places. So coming to your question, what is, the expectation from the market, from the customer, in terms of the right EV to build? So I would say three things. One is the range. And it was mentioned by one of the panelists earlier that we have to understand what is the typical last mile run or a mid-mile run in the ecosystem. So today, for example, our eLCV, which we have launched in the market for the last 9 to 11 months, it is running, just to share a few data points, it runs for around 60 to 70 kilometers, while the range is in excess of 100. It is used per day for a run of around 60 to 70 kilometers. Second, today the volumetric need in the market. So we have built this with a 192 cubic feet of volume available space. The third element is the data around the product, because today, like the cost of ownership, because today these electric vehicles are not just to decarbonize, but fundamentally also to build a business case in terms of operational cost savings. These vehicles today are able to reduce the operational cost by almost close to 60%, because they are low on running cost, because the electricity cost is much lower. Second is the maintenance of an electric vehicle is also almost half or lower than that. These three factors, in addition to that, we have to also look at, so Nabil, the typical EV OEM, the typical OEM skin or the role is not enough to really drive adoption. Today, we are happy to say that we are working with the e-commerce players and the logistics player hand in hand in terms of helping them in driving efficiency through driver management, even the driver training, because these drivers today have to also have a mindset shift that today they have a vehicle which is electric. Today they have a vehicle which can pick up fast, which can run, smoothly. They have an automatic gear or automatic system. So while it gives comfort, but there is also the other side of the story where the range of the vehicle is also dependent on the driving behavior. So we have a huge telematics system where on a day-to-day basis, the driver scorecards are generated. You're able to see how the driver is behaving on the vehicle. And you also look at the vehicle health. Second point is also the expectation is in the e-commerce space, the customer expectation today, the customer needs it on time. So your SLAs, your delivery times are very critical. Hence, the vehicle robustness has to be there. Today, our uptime of our vehicles are in excess of 90%. So that's reliability of the EVs as a technology for the customers to say that, okay, this vehicle will come every day, will be able to run equally, if not more, as far as a diesel counterpart is concerned, and is able to finally deliver value to me in terms of savings and is green at the end. So that's what we are trying to build. And Mr. Nagaraju also mentioned that how today the e-commerce ecosystem is becoming more intense, and the last mile delivery system is going closer to the customer's house. Hence the need for smaller vehicles, hence the need for three-wheelers. And that's where we are also witnessing across the board, an exploding demand for three-wheeler cargo segment.
Thank you, Deepak. So before I go on debating the operational cost and maintenance cost, I like to bring in, because this is a biggest dispute area where everybody doesn't agree. Sometimes some agree, some disagree. They all have logic and reasons for that. But I like to bring in Goldie here. Goldie, for you, you have been into passenger courier largely when it comes to intra-city or last mile connectivity. How do you see the shift towards cargo? Do you think a service provider like you see a potential, and which are these areas where you see the potential for implementation of such cargo vehicles in intra-city logistics? And what are the challenges you see when it comes to electric vehicle? You have been an advocate of electric vehicle, but I would expect a neutral answer, comparing it with the available or traditional technology.
Yeah, sure. So Nabil, obviously, I think the whole principles on which Smarty was formed roughly 6 years ago was electric mobility. And as far as logistics is concerned, we see an equally large, if not a bigger play as far as logistics is concerned. Now, as far as applicability of electric vehicles in logistics are concerned, yes, I mean, there would always be certain limitations to it, but then those limitations are more consequence of the products being available. And I'm glad to hear what Deepak was mentioning earlier. I think as more and more products become available, right, in the country for logistics, I think the categories start expanding. I mean, if we were to look at Smarty's own delivery operations today, I mean, right from doing, delivering goods for India's largest milk supplying company to the top 2 e-commerce player, to the top 2 e-grocers, to the largest, poultry and, seafood online company, to moving goods for automotive and precision engineering through one of the largest air cargo companies. I mean, even today, in a very short span of time, we are covering a wide gamut of industries, goods, that we can deliver, and fully agree with what Preet was mentioning earlier. Even for a furniture brand and a home brand like IKEA, it becomes more and more relevant. I think the only question is the volumetric capacity, right, and the weight carrying capacity. Range, I'm not too worried, because range is a matter of battery packs. If you don't get enough range, you just put in more battery packs, right? I don't think there is any dramatic innovation to be done there as far as cargo is concerned vis-a-vis the passenger side. It's really about do you have a robust platform, the right volumetric capacity and the right weight carrying capacity. Today, the majority of products that are available in the market out there, electric I'm talking about, they are below 500 kg kind of a payload and under 120 cubic feet kind of a volumetric capacity, which is where our core is there. But as more and more products above between 500 to 1 ton starts coming in, I mean, if you look at the data from Ministry of Road Transport, as of end of 2018, there were about 6 million three-wheeled cargo vehicles, registered cargo vehicles. And I reckon most of these are used for intra-city operations. So there is a massive opportunity out there to really transition out and phase out these, three-wheeled cargo vehicles that today unfortunately pollute the road. And not just that, they're also not allowed to operate for a good part of day. So if you're in Delhi, you have barely a 4 or a 6 hour entry window during the day to actually apply these vehicles on the road. So you actually take away a lot of those operational issues, the pollution issue, the fact that they are, older, platforms, right? By bringing in the right types of electric vehicles. So I believe, the intra-city logistics through electric vehicle can absolutely become all pervasive irrespective of the industry, right? It's just a question of how soon can we get some of those higher volumetric products and a higher tonnage products. And with the first, what, Deepak and his team is doing and a few other players are doing, I think we're looking at maybe 12 or an 18-month window wherein all of those gaps can easily be addressed.
I will definitely also like to find out if there is a silver lining or there is something that could trigger that boost in the intercity electrification of logistics. I'll come to you, Preet. The question of business profitability and operational costs should certainly be pointed to you because you are the only CFO in the panel. You tell me, will you be ready to adopt entire fleet of electric vehicles to transport your items to your consumers, and do you think that will make a business sense for you in terms of maintenance or operational? If you were to have your own logistics solution, will you opt for as a business person or as a CFO of a company?
It is also very interesting. So I sit here in this panel. Of course, I am the CFO, but I'm also the sustainability lead in IKEA India. And people actually often ask me that question to say, how does the CFO and sustainability, come together? But I think it comes together, beautifully well, because we have a saying in IKEA that says what is good for customers in the long term is good for us. Yeah. And I think you have to, when you're implementing change, you have to have a long-term hat on. You can't look at short-term gains or benefits. So if we were to kind of adapt, if we don't own a fleet, by the way, we work through our service providers. The question that we are asking is, would we?
I'm just saying, suppose if you had to own.
Would 100% do it. Would 100% do it because of, it will mean investment and heavy investment initially, right? And it will probably mean, more challenges initially, but you have to look at the long run and you have to look at what is it that you're trying to do in the long run. I mean, this is a bit like, if you put a technology infrastructure in place, it is going to cost you investment initially, but eventually it will give you benefits, and this is exactly what will happen if we turn. So we have to make that investment initially if we are to, make our future, better for our own selves and for our customers.
Let's come to the basic question that has been raising around India all over, be it city or rural or metros or small cities. Infrastructure has been one of the biggest questions. So is it still pervasive? Is it still the biggest challenge for you guys when you plan to adopt electrified, logistics or transportation system? Yeah, Mr. Nagarjuna.
Nabil, just with your permission, I just want to add on to what Preet was mentioning on the purely from a business point, why we should go in for electric. Now, I just want to give a small business logic here. A few years ago, when we were delivering using Tata Ace vans, for example, right, which is a 1-tonner and etc., we used to have a vehicle taken from the transporter. It will come with a driver, and we used to send our own person because for big basket, since we do deliveries inside the house, right from day one, even today, we always ensure it is delivered by a person fully trained by us because he's going inside the house. There are some security aspects, certain etiquette is required. He has to show all the products, etc. He also has to carry out certain transactions like returns, etc. Explanation of certain doubts of the customer on freshness, so on. So we always had one person, our person, big basket delivery person. Actually, he is called incidentally as customer experience executive, going with the vehicle. So you can imagine one vehicle going with 2 people, one driver and another person. What will be the cost parameter? Now, compared to that, in the new scenario, over the last 2 years, as we started using electric 3-wheelers. So why did we move from 4-wheelers to 3-wheelers is something I think, I don't know whether it is Deepak or Gul is already covered. Because as we are delivering more and more into the cities, as e-commerce is becoming mainstream and our more and more customers are found in different parts of the city. In other words, the customer density is increasing. As the customer density is increasing, each hub or logistics operation is becoming smaller. We used to have 4 hubs in Bangalore 6 years ago. Now we have 15 hubs. That means they are operating in a smaller area. When you are operating in a smaller area, when you're doing smaller trips, right? Why do we need to have a Tata Ace vehicle, which is slightly bigger? Earlier, it was the right vehicle, but right now we need a smaller vehicle. Then we said, if you're doing it, might as well look at an electric option. That's when we went into three-wheeler, which came as at the right time, it appeared as an electric vehicle option. So there's a clear logic. Clearly, we have reduced 1%, right? In the whole delivery operation, we ensured that either the driver, if he's good enough, we have trained him on aspects of delivery, or if he's our person willing to drive, we have helped him to get a driver's license. So he becomes a driver come delivery. Clear business logic, number one. Number two is electric vehicles. Actually, if you go into the next topic, very clearly it shows that cost of operation is less. I mean, it's no big brainer, right? Compared to the diesel, the way it is going beyond petrol up to 80 rupees and above in many cities. Electric vehicle cost of operation much less. Maintenance is much less, as somebody else pointed out. So there is clear operational benefit.
Are you able to manage that with the acquisition cost? Do the players who are operating do not charge you a premium for using electric vehicle, or the cost is almost same as you use the traditional vehicle?
Yeah. So see, for example, we work very closely with our transport partners. So the cost is fairly transparent. We know, for example, in fact, in many cases, in the earlier times when we had to buy certain vehicles ourselves. Big Basket bought certain vehicles, even from Mahindra, because at that time, no transporter was willing to buy an untested vehicle. So we had to own certain vehicles to see, understand, etc. During that process, we had a fairly good idea about the cost economics of either buying and rest of the attendant costs, in terms of total cost of operation, including this one. So we work on a very transparent basis with our transport partners, encouraging them to buy the vehicle in such a way that actually he makes, compared to earlier situation, he ends up making more money. I'll just give you one example. For our kind of operation, for example, if somebody is trying to use a Tata Ace, actually he ends up losing more because his utilization is very less. Half the time the vehicle will be going maybe 50%. Whereas if he uses a slightly smaller vehicle with the electric three-wheeler, his utilization is far better. Maybe his initial cost may be slightly higher, but overall his cost is less. Therefore, he gets the same margin or even better margin. And if I had to just extend this to a two-wheeler, for example, in the case of two-wheeler, you know that there is nothing called a transporter and a biker. And the biker himself owns a bike and then he works for us or for a transporter. So he himself owns the asset. For a guy who is running a two-wheeler, typically our kind of operation where he does about maybe 50-60 kilometers per day, and therefore even if he does 25 days, maybe little less than 2,000 kilometers he has to do, he ends up spending about 6,000 to 7,000 on petrol or diesel, plus the maintenance of an IC vehicle. Whereas if he buys an electric vehicle, if I can help him to get an electric bike, right, he hardly spends less than $1,000. So for him, it's a straight addition to his take-home salary. Right?
Thank you.
So we have clearly explained this logic to our bikers, and more people are coming into buy electric bikes.
I see Deepak raising hand, but before I go to Deepak, you have raised a very pertinent point that you have reduced the size of the vehicles because you had a smaller area to cover. So Arvind, do we look forward to a multimodal kind of logistic or intra-city logistic coming into play, and how will you do that? Number one. Number two, Rajuji has just mentioned that he was in a fix that the transport service provider was not that willing to buy electric vehicles, so he opted for buying himself those vehicles. For you, what are the challenges? Why are you not ready to adopt those 100% electric fleet, or at least 80%, or why are you reluctant even in such a scenario? Arvind, from you also, and Let's Track also should chip in and answer this question briefly.
So one of the, I think Nagaraju sir himself explained it so beautifully. Yes, it is being an untested vehicle, people do have risk aversion when it comes to investment, right? I mean, as an organization, we might want to do a lot of things, but believing in an asset-free model, we actually encourage our sub-vendors to go ahead and purchase these vehicles, right? And some of them do definitely come back with grievances. Some of them do definitely come back with queries on, or at least their fears on margins of how it is going to turn out to be, because it's not tried and tested. Because, like, say for example, in today's scenario, things might be a bit different, because you're trying to replace a four-wheel Tata Ace with a three-wheel electric vehicle, right? The investment cost is also possibly a little lesser than what it is going to be, and the operational cost is also going to be lesser. So the conversation today is going to be very different. But back in the day, back when a lot of these vehicles were coming into play, the costs were also quite fairly high, and the adoption was not that great initially. But then I think over a period of time, especially, I think this is where I tip my hat to Kaustubh and Deepak here, right? So I mean, Kaustubh is not a part of this call, but yeah, I tip my hat to him as well. So the way they explained their retrofitted vehicle, the economics of their retrofitted vehicle, and even their three-wheelers to us, and that actually did help generate a lot of interest within our sub-vendor community.
Thank you. Pushkar, I would like to bring you in. What's your thought on this?
Yeah, thank you, Nabil. KB sir has been a mentor to all of us, I think, and that's why we kind of respect him as KB sir. But as he rightly pointed out, people are definitely averse to buying a new product, especially an asset where, it's a double-edged sword, wherein you do not know what's the life of a truck. Moreover, you do not even know, can you resell the truck if in case you wanted to get out of that engagement, right? And hence it boils down to a point where, being aggregators of small truck owners, it is imperative for us to make or convince them to buy a product. That's essentially where we see success of this entire model, which not just starts from an OEM, but also how do you finance it, how do you resell it, how do you give them a comfort that, it's not something which they're kind of marrying into. And I think, but what also gives us the entire reason to be optimistic is, if you think the fuel consumption in India by value, the maximum goes to road freight. While a number of trucks would still be about 10 to 15%, but about 40% of our fuel goes into road freight and trucks, and hence it becomes more important for us to convert them into electricity rather than bikes or some other passenger vehicles, right? And also, if you look at from a user perspective, none of us would take mileage as the most important parameter when we're buying cars, right? I mean, for us, it's a part of convenience. Everything else supersedes that mileage per se. But for a truck driver, for a truck owner, that's the only thing which he actually bothers about. And hence, which gives us comfort where Deepak and Goldie can focus on improving the technology, which ensures that even over aesthetics, if it's making a business sense, they will buy it, right? Which will not be true for a lot of other categories of vehicles. I mean, people buy Tesla because they're early adopters of technology. They're enthusiastic about it rather than figuring it out the total cost of ownership. I think that's something which is extremely important, and it also kind of brings in hope to our ecosystem. Wherein if Deepak and Goldie were to thumb the table and say, you know what, my cost of ownership is 60% lower, and I'm sure drivers would get convinced to buy it. I mean, they wouldn't be bothered of the color, the every ancillary feature, which you and I would be so cautious and careful about. And I think hence, while there is a significant barrier to adoption, but I think if as an ecosystem, each one of us can partner, it essentially moves the needle or sways it in favor where a driver starts buying a truck of electric. I mean, all of us, KB sir, started the entire flywheel by, let's say, ordering 100 electric trucks. I can move it to 500. But the massive change, there are about 50 lakh small trucks. And that can only happen if you have drivers willing to buy this technology.
Thank you so much, Pushkar. I'll have to end you here. I'll bring in Goldie here, and then I'll go to Deepak because we are running out of time. I would request you to be brief.
So, you want to further elaborate a bit on what KB had mentioned, and I think he kind of understated it, but the reality is because of electric three-wheelers specifically, it is very easy to drive, right? Unlike, and he gave a perfect example that in a Tata Ace type of environment, you need a driver and then you need a delivery boy or customer care executive. I mean, we have 200 electric loaders or electric vans, and they're all operated by a driver come delivery executive. And so right away, for the top 10 clients that we serve, we have eliminated about 25% of their cost, if they were operating those same using the traditional model. And because electric vehicles are very easy to buy, manage, and also operate, right? There's a completely new type of skill set that you're developing, right? Otherwise, traditionally, drivers are drivers and a delivery executive is delivery executive. Whereas what we are doing is really fusing them together and saying that, you not just drive, but you're also competent enough to go all the way to a consumer's house, deliver a good, have that etiquette mannerism. And the value that gets created there, it benefits us as a service provider, it benefits a client like Big Basket who we serve, but it also benefits the driver because now he's able to monetize more for the same amount of productive hours. And I think perhaps it may be a little understated, but I believe that's where the real economic value proposition today is getting created over
Absolutely.
and above the operating cost alone, right? Operating cost is given, right? But that's a very, very important point to consider. And I'm glad, KBN actually, mentioned it because that's very important.
Rightly pointed, Goldie. Now I'll come to you, Deepak, because I was just jotting down all the points that is being raised by probably your users of your vehicles. So the first point was raised because why they don't opt for EV is the margins, then acquisition cost, then resale value is another concern as raised by Pushkar, and then confidence, and now rightly pointed by Goldie that three-wheeler, our electric three-wheeler gives flexibility that was not there in the bigger vehicle, or you see the narrow lanes and everything that is there to go there and deliver stuff. These are few important aspects. How are you going to address that as a startup or as a manufacturer in this aspects?
Yeah, so I will try to link up all the points. There are two aspects to it. One is the total cost of ownership, which I think everyone talked about, some part of it. So if you break down the total cost of ownership, because that's the battle which has to clearly and completely tilt towards electric to see a massive adoption. Otherwise, it would, of course, be a function of the decarbonizing mandate and the intent and the long-term view. So total cost of ownership can be broken down into three ingredients. One ingredient is the upfront acquisition cost, which is where the EVs are typically more expensive. You see that typical EV as compared to a diesel asset is around 1.5 to 2 times of a new diesel asset, which adds substantial load over the vehicle and hence the usage of the vehicle, because this is where the second factor comes in. And KB sir said very rightly that the electric vehicle being in the upfront cost being higher, if you use it more, you save more, and hence the total cost of ownership starts going back towards the EV, tilting towards the EV. The third part is the terminal value, a residual value, which is perhaps as an EV OEM, our biggest challenge, because that's the uncertainty which either a financier or a customer wants to know what will happen to this vehicle after 5 years, after 6 years. We have best-in-class warranties, but the big question is what is the terminal value? So today, we are trying to do and build models and give some assurances to make sure that the vehicle is run beyond the life cycle. So the total cost of ownership puzzle is getting resolved because the vehicles are getting more used. The upfront cost is coming down. You see the battery prices are on the downhill and the diesel prices are going uphill. So you would see within 6 to 12 months, electric assets will become, the upfront cost will come down below 1.5 factor. We already today our ELCV, which today during this event we'll launch, it's come down from a factor of 1.8 to 1.4. Now coming to the second point, which is the business model, which is where who will own this asset, this new animal, reliability, the questions around technology, servicing, who will own this? So for example, for us as an EV OEM, our first challenge was how do you seed this product into the market? And we had to really partner and come together. So Let's Transport team, for example, we've had discussions on how do you seed this product more and more into the ecosystem. So Pushkar and I, we've been discussing how to drive this from today a leasing model to finally a phase where the end driver owner will have the confidence and the comfort and the financing to own this asset. So there would be a phase-wise gradual transition where Goldies of the world will have to own with us, and we have to slowly start seeding into the logistics B2B space, and then it will become a retail product where the end driver owner on the road, he would get the comfort, he would understand this economics and will buy into this.
I think it is also a perception game. I'll come to you, Preet. Recently, Government of India has released a notification wherein they have said that they will allow selling of electric vehicles, especially three-wheelers and two-wheelers without battery. Do you think this will somehow, resolve the issue of resale value? Because people are reluctant to buy a pre-owned electric vehicle largely because of the high cost of battery. They don't know what is the condition of the battery. When there is no battery in the vehicle, do you think the resale value can be attained by the user or the owner? Number one. Number two, do you think that this policy can give a major boost to electric adoption in the intra-city logistics space? Preet, first you, then I'll go to KB sir and Mr. Goldie also.
Actually, on the first one, you're asking me a question that I don't know the answer to. So I'm going to be honest enough to kind of say that, for sure, if that takes away the uncertainty of what is going to be the life of the asset, and therefore the uncertainty around the end of asset, then for sure it should increase. But that's a logic answer rather than a knowledge answer. So I will to the experts.
Goldie, your take on it.
I would say last 7 days are perhaps the most momentous 7 days in the India's electric vehicle journey, right? With what first the Delhi government announced, followed by what the notifications from the Ministry of Road Transport came about. I think both the policies significantly bring your total cost of ownership further down than what they already are. And then by the by the very virtue of delinking the batteries in the vehicle, I think it completely changes the equation and the uncertainties for someone like us, wherein we can delink our purchase decisions, right, and focus only on a vehicle platform and go do an independent, entering a deal with a battery OEM, much like how it happens in the airline industry, right? When airlines buy it, they negotiate engines and the planes or the bodies separately, right? I mean, they have a choice to decide which engines they want to go with. And that sort of thought process coming to the EV sector, I think, is a very, very welcome move. And I think it will augur very, very well for the overall ecosystem development for months and years to come.
How do you see this going across this segment? Because the safety, the design of the vehicle is very different. Maybe it is adaptable to three-wheeler or maybe LCV. But what about two-wheelers? Do you have different, power distribution and different structure design? How do you see this working out there?
So I think the big sort of open item, which I think as a country and as policy,
also brand value, the Honda, the Yamaha, or the Shiro, or the BMW Motard, or the Harley Davidson, and all that has different, brand value. How are you going to deal with that? Yes, I'll come to you also, Preet. Yeah.
Right. So certainly. So look, so I think from a battery delinking perspective, obviously better standardization has to happen. And given the battery technologies are emerging rapidly, right, it allows an owner to de-risk, right? I mean, you can take much more informed choice, and as long as there's interoperability and there's standardization, I think it's a great move. On brands and whether brand values diminish, I would say yes, in a personal mobility construct, yes, you would not. I mean, if I were owning a BMW electric, I would not want to go and buy batteries from elsewhere. But as far as any commercial applications are concerned, right, for fleet owners, aggregators, I think it gives them a lot of flexibility. Again, the example to look at is airline, right? Airlines, when they go to Boeing or Airbus, they do have multiple choices of engines, right? And then they decide which one works best for them. As end commuters, you don't care what engine you're flying on. But sort of a personal mobility is a different, matter altogether. But for commercial applications, I think it's still a great move nonetheless.
Yeah, Priti, you wanted to make some point.
No, I was only connecting what the question, not so much on brands, but but it is going to be, for manufacturers of electric vehicles, right? Until there is standardization and until the industry evolves to that level, there will be a concern for sure I mean, if I was sitting as a manufacturer of the vehicle, I would be concerned about what batteries are going to get used, because that eventually impacts not the brand image, but eventually the brand image of what is the reliability of my vehicle. So, I think for something like that to evolve, I think only answered the question to say standardization, but that does take time. So,
Mr. Nagaraju, how do you see this? Do you think it makes you easy for you to adopt more of electric vehicles, especially looking at the Delhi policy, which gives a lot of emphasis on two-wheeler electrification of two-wheeler deliveries? How do you see this entire two policies, impacting or giving boost to electrified transportation system?
Yeah, actually, as Goldie just now mentioned, I think both these policies coming within a span of 1 week. It's a great stuff actually. Let me just talk about the first one regarding the total cost of ownership. I think the Delhi government trying to give additional incentive for those who are purchasing a four-wheeler or two-wheeler, beyond the fame to subsidy is really a great thing, right? That obviously straight away it brings down the cost of ownership. The only small question I have in my mind is, while many of these schemes are laudable, when it comes to how quickly a guy can get that subsidy is something which that can still be a worry. Because even if you look at FAME 2 also, I am aware quite a lot of smaller OEM manufacturers who are making these three-wheelers for us and many others, right? The whole process of getting the FAME 2 subsidy, providing a lot of technical back and forth with ARI is not an easy thing. So I think while government does with a lot of good intentions now give all these policies and subsidies, finally getting the benefit for the end consumer, that's when the rubber hits the road, and that's when really the TCO comes up. That's one small issue I have in my mind. The second thing is delinking the battery is definitely a great thing, because if you look at a big basket kind of an operation, someone who starts with a new battery, and if he's going to run some 100 kilometers per day, not 100, even 80 kilometers per day on a 365-day cycle, right? He will, at the current technology of the batteries, I'm sure he has to change the battery after 20,000 cycles or something like that, or even less. I don't know how much it is. But he may have to change the battery after 2 years, right? Now, that means he has to again invest in some 30, 40K in the battery. So, which is not going to be, it's not going to be a happy situation. And that's what many of the people are already asking. What happens? How long will the battery last? Because, everybody knows about batteries, because you have battery in your mobile phone, you have battery everywhere. Most of the assets we own have batteries. So they are very, very, very knowledgeable about battery, how long it will come, how many cycles and all that, right? So delinking is definitely a good policy. Now, the only thing is, yes, there has to be a standardization, but I'm sure that is going to take time, because any standardization of this kind of a matching of vehicle with something or some primary product with one product, and that too in our country coming out with standards and getting it approved, making sure all the OEMs agree to it is going to be a long haul. However, what I see is a possible happening is OEMs themselves may actually start offering the battery as a service. Now, for example, if I take an Ampere scooter, they may give the scooter minus the vehicle, or let's say some vehicle, maybe Deepak himself, he may give a vehicle minus the battery, so that the upfront cost of ownership becomes much lower. But Deepak himself may start giving battery on a per month usage basis, with with all risks covered, including maintenance, this, that, whatever it is, etc. Only charging to be done by the person who is using it. So that can be a possible thing. I heard that some of the OEMs are already started thinking about it. But with this policy, which just got announced, I think yesterday by Ministry of Road Transport, it's actually a great step in reducing the TCO, upfront cost of TCO.
You have rightly, foreseen the changes that we see coming up in this landscape. You expect OEMs to become probably battery service provider. You expect that then standardization should come up. And the problem that you see is implementation, and also the ease of doing business, or how people
Correct.
can avail these are the few important aspects that you have brought in. Deepak, how do you see it? How do you see these two, policies, and do you agree with Mr. Nagaraju that these are the challenges, and how do you plan to deal with that?
I think I agree with what Goldie said and KB sir said, that these regulations are definitely a beginning of a big change, transformation, because finally with this battery delinking, essentially we are going to go towards an ecosystem where batteries can become similar to a gasoline diesel fuel for the end customer. And that's a big leap in terms of thought process. Of course, like Goldie said and KB sir said, as a EV OEM, we spend a lot of time with our battery partners to kind of look at the battery, like KB sir was saying that about the durability in terms of cycles of the battery, in terms of the safety of the battery, in terms of the mechanical architecture of the battery, in terms of the fitment of the battery, because battery has to go into a particular space. So there are dimensions of the battery. So you basically design your vehicle keeping in mind how the battery is going to fit into your vehicle. So there are a lot of work which goes into with the battery partners, which we do as an EV OEM. If I visualize a space, visualize a next environment where batteries are going to become like commodities with a basic standard set in terms of quality, in terms of the packaging, in terms of the interoperability, which Goldie talked about. So all these elements would definitely make electric adoption happen easily. So of course, there's a long way to go, because today we are very sticky about the battery partners and battery type and battery chemistry and all those elements, because when we are going out in the market, we have to stand by performance, which is determined by the battery efficiency, effectiveness, reliability. So those are areas, but I think this is a great move to start with. Technology wise, it would lead to standardization for various categories. And like somebody said, that commercial vehicle industry would definitely benefit from it. More than passenger, commercial would definitely benefit from it, because again, the TCO will really be competitive, and we can easily outpace the diesel industry from this standpoint. And coming to the EV policy, I think Delhi EV policy and Telangana EV policy, both are great. They are holistic. That's a beautiful thing, because how they are looking at different segments, how they are looking at scrappage incentives, they are fueling demand, they are giving exemptions, they are looking at training of drivers. So it's a bigger umbrella under which they are looking at solving the puzzle. And now, of course, the implementation is to be seen. They have made different agencies, the EV board, EV cell, and there are 3-4 agencies. So we have to see the implementation, but we are very excited. As an EV OEM, I think, given the fact intra-city logistics is seeing action, we are extremely excited and positive about this.
Thank you, Deepak. Certainly, this is one topic that we can go on and on, but time may not permit. So I'll have to end this discussion. But before that, I would like to have every one of you make final conclusion or comment on the subject. What do you think? In 30 seconds, I'll start with Mr. Nagaraju. How do you see, what is the possibility of electrifying intra-city transportation or logistics, especially cargo logistics?
I definitely see, great momentum in the coming months, especially with the Delhi, Telangana already notifying the new policy. I'm sure rest of the states also will follow soon. And we are going to have a very good template available on how, on how to avail various benefits and so on. The second point is, as I already said, for many of e-commerce companies, especially big baskets and Amazons and the like, there is absolutely no question in mind that it makes sense. No, it makes business sense. See, at the end of the day, it has to make business sense. It has to make business sense for the user like us, so that because I'm reducing one person or I'm reducing total cost, etc. The third thing is, it will also start making sense to the owner of the asset, whether he's a driver or a transporter or a third-party logistics service provider. I think with all these benefits which are available, it will start making sense to them as well. And so I see very clearly a positive environment for a very faster adoption of electric vehicles going forward.
Positive environment for faster adoption. Goldie, your thoughts, 30 seconds.
Yeah, so look, for intra-city logistics and the electrification of it essentially is a win-win-win situation. And the three stakeholders in that, one is the client, or the sort of players like the basket itself. The second is the driver of those vehicles, and third is the government and the society at large. And I think with the electrification of last mile delivery and intra-city logistics, it's a good win-win-win for all of these three stakeholders. The government gets cleaner cities. The clients get better, and more cost-efficient last-mile delivery operations, which is a huge cost of their overall, cost of doing business. and the drivers end up making more, and you're creating much more sustainable livelihoods, for the times to come. So we are absolutely bullish.
Deepak, your take. Only 30 seconds.
For us, electrification of intra-city logistics is our mission. So we are betting that will be the forerunner of EV adoption in the country. We definitely see that more than any other segment, intra-city logistics is going to be at the forefront of EV adoption in the country, and ETrio will play a significant role.
Perfectly. Preet, your thoughts?
Okay, 30 seconds, three things. Really welcome the move by the government of Telangana, and we are in Hyderabad, so we really look forward to partnering with also the players, including ETrio, to actually widen our network. The second impact that we've really not spoken about actually is that the COVID impact is going to bring not just, e-commerce in all forms. I think intra-city logistics for this next 1 year is going to be even more significant. So any movement we make in electric mobility in intra-city logistics is going to be amplified. So, that is fantastic. And the third thing I will say is that we spoke about, the business case of e-mobility. What we did not speak about is the value that, this brings as a sustainable brand in the eyes of the customer. Because for sure, KV sir, at least in my eyes, I have today, raised the value of Big Basket. So, and that is exactly what is going to happen. The more brands and businesses adapt sustainable practices, the more customers actually trust those brands.
Pushkar, your thoughts?
I think it's inevitable, Nabil, electrification of various vehicles that's moving, of which I think light commercial trucks, the smaller trucks, is the first one and the foremost, which is easier to disrupt, largely because you circumvent other implementation challenges, be it cost of ownership, be it charging infrastructure, so on and so forth. And hence, I think it is a right step to kind of disrupt this, learn from the technology iteration, and then move forward to other categories to be disrupted.
Arvind, your thought last.
This is a good chance for an entire ecosystem to be formed, be it swappable batteries, or be it charging infrastructure across the country, or be it sustainable solar power grids, etc. Because you do not know how power grids respond to this kind of a mass electrification, right? Considering that, I feel it's a very exciting time because such a lot of change happening will only create more and more value.
Thank you, Arvind. Thank you so much, everyone, for such an insightful discussion. I'll just like to sum up before I conclude. What has come out is that margin still remains one of the key concern area when we talk about electrification of fleet. Acquisition cost is still a problem, but I think with the recent announcement of delinking battery with vehicle may give a booster to the EV adoption. Then the confidence in terms of technology is still weak. We need to break in there. We have to make that confidence and breach into that negativity that is going around electric vehicle. Flexibility of vehicle, capability of moving into narrow lanes. These are some important aspects. Then other important aspect is implementation of the policies that is being rolled out by the various government, be it Delhi government or the Telangana government, while overall the people who would like to adopt to electric vehicle is largely focused towards sustainable and cleaner mobility, and operating cost is certainly coming out to be one of the biggest driver for electric mobility. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining ETrio. On the other side of this panel discussion, we have another Power Pack panel discussion and session being moderated by Deepak himself. And before that, there is a really answer to all this conundrum or the confusion that is there around electric mobility or the intra-city logistic. And Deepak's ETrio is going to launch a new product which is going to play a front runner kind of role in intra-city logistics space. Thank you so much once again for joining ETrio.
Thank you, Nabil. You've been a wonderful host. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to all of you. I welcome you all to this unique event
where I would introduce you to ETrio, the company I represent, and our retrofitted eLCV, the product which we have launched for electrification of intra-city logistics. Change is inevitable. Like the seasons of life, the business environment is constantly going through change. We've all seen change happening from coal-fueled railway engines to electric engines, from concrete buildings to steel buildings, from fuel-guzzling cars to fuel-efficient cars, landlines to mobiles, and from cash to digital money. And we have adapted to these changes every day. We as a society are constantly adopting innovations and improving our lives. You will soon witness one innovation today that will change the way intra-city logistics is currently managed. The Indian EV industry is in its nascent stages. While there is a vision for 100% electric vehicles by 2030, industry experts indicate that around 30% EV conversion by 2030 is a realistic expectation. While we have seen a major push towards EV has been led by the public transportation requirements in India, driven by the two-wheelers, three-wheelers, fleet cars, e-buses, post-COVID, intra-city logistics is touted to become the forerunner of EV adoption. Electrification of intra-city logistics is fueled due to a culmination of multiple factors coming together. Let me take one by one each factor. One is the exponential increase in online spending. Two, the growing environmental consciousness of the customers at large. Three, the electrification vision and mandate of various e-commerce companies. And fourth, perhaps the most critical, is the significant operational cost savings on electric vehicles as compared to the diesel counterparts. These factors, coupled with the increasing regulatory and policy support from both central governments and state governments, it seems that the moment of change has arrived. At ETrio, we have created a perfect way to do the same. Let me now take you back to 2017, when the journey started for ETrio. ETrio is a company with a vision to provide EV for all by driving a three-way transformation, which is to change lives, decarbonize environment, and drive business efficiencies. Our mission is to electrify intra-city logistics and become the leading EV player with a product portfolio of payload ranging from 75 kgs to 750 kgs across 2, 3 and 4-wheelers. While EV has been a buzzword in the country with significant government push and OEM forays, fundamental challenges surrounding the product and the ecosystem has remained. At ETrio, we have worked on these problems long and hard. Our approach to product design is fundamentally based on 5 pillars. Pillar 1, performance in terms of range, torque and gradability. Second is safety, the most important in terms of both at the vehicular level and the component level. For example, we are looking at battery safety in terms of water, dust, thermal, electrocution hazards. Pillar 3 is technology in terms of connectivity through advanced telematics, battery management and many such systems. The fourth is comfort and convenience for the customers in terms of automatic drive, vehicle ergonomics, suspension, etc. The fifth is reliability. We are building products to last with unmatched and best-in-class warranty. Our extensive work in the intra-city logistics space has seen us gain the trust of leading e-commerce and logistics. We are super excited to be a part of this EV revolution and drive electrification of intra-city logistics. Let me introduce you all to our friend Mohan here. He is a hard-working, sincere driver-owner of a light commercial vehicle and has been driving this vehicle for the last 7 years. His LCV is now in its second life. Let's suppose 5 years. And Mohan is not ready for this, as his net income is shrinking month on month, but expenses are going through the roof. The maintenance of his vehicle is increasing and the mileage is just sliding down with the increasing age of the vehicle. Also, his vehicle is now unable to run in many organized logistics contracts because of its age. His income is inconsistent and future is looking bleak. With BS6 product prices going up and diesel prices continuously spiraling upwards, Mohan's situation is getting worse. What do you think Mohan should do? Buy a new expensive BS6 diesel vehicle and become vulnerable to the increasing diesel prices? Or just continue with his old vehicle and pray for some miracle? What Mohan needs is rejuvenation. He fundamentally needs an asset which can revive his livelihood. There is good news for Mohan. He need not despair. ETrio's retrofitment is exactly what he needs. Retrofitment is the process of conversion of an existing ICE vehicle into a 100% electric vehicle. It has a two-pronged impact of decarbonizing environment and decongesting roads. It is a niche segment with a pivotal role in the EV revolution in the country. While the space is primarily viewed as an unorganized sector, there are official guidelines, namely AIS 123 Part 3, for an organized and an approved methodology of retrofitment. Why do you think retrofitment is a need of the hour? It is an essential answer to the exploding population of aging vehicles on the road. And most importantly, it is the much needed solution to the millions of commercial vehicle owners in the country to give their old polluting asset a new lease of life by converting into a green productive one. The impending scrappage law just makes retrofitment more relevant than ever for India. While the retrofitment has a huge potential in a country like India, it is paramount to do retrofitment in a safe and organized and reliable way. At ETrio, we have found a perfect way to do the same. Through our scientific retrofitment process, we will rejuvenate Mohan's vehicle by giving it a new lease of life of 5 to 7 years, revive the earning by saving almost 60% of the operational expenses, and also make Mohan's diesel guzzling LCV into a green vehicle. Let me now present to you all India's leading electric LCV, which has been tested and perfected after years of research. And today, it is India's only certified retrofitted electric truck. It's built on none other than the super robust and market leader Tata Ace. After 2 years of rigorous work, ETrio's eLCV has become the toast of the intra-city logistics space, and today is trusted and used by over 10 plus leading e-commerce and logistics companies.
Let's Transport are the largest enterprise-focused intra-city logistics player, where we work with 100 plus medium and large enterprises across fast-moving consumer goods, organized retail, e-commerce, as well as 3PL companies in terms of helping them with their first mile, mid-mile, and last-mile distribution. Given the industry that we are in, more than 40% of our 65,000 plus registered vehicles are Tata Aces that are used in last-mile distribution. And given the common vision that we share with ETrio in terms of driving innovation and sustainability into last mile distribution, at the same time addressing the comforts of drivers, we have worked closely with ETrio in terms of piloting and doing trials of the Tata Ace electric vehicle with most of the clients that we work with. And I'm very happy to say that almost all of these trials were extremely successful, and they met, if not exceeded, the expectations of the clients.
Firstly, on behalf of Bring Logistics, I would like to congratulate ETrio on the successful launch of their retrofitted eLCV today. It would be a milestone in electric vehicles as it's first of its kind and one of its kind in four-wheeler electric vehicles. The vehicle has ease of driving with automatic gear shift and thus is ideal for heavy traffic at Bangalore and at other congested cities.
Start. Hi, this is Mohan Ramaswamy. I'm a co-founder of Terago Logistics. Terago is an interior vehicle solution. We start off with the purpose to provide an intercity and an intercity model which is integrated along with a multimodal options and tech enabled. Terago started off in 2017 and my co-founder is Sukhpreet Hariwal. In the intercity model, we provide a asset-light model for all our customers. But in the intracity, we took a very conscious call of providing a very sustainable product to our customers, which is electric vehicles. So we started this project around the mid of COVID, and we were supported very aptly with ETrio Logistics, who provided us with the vehicles to start this project with Big Basket during the COVID season, despite the restrictions. So I would like to say that the ETrio vehicles we have been using for last 3 months, almost for nearly 100 days now, and they have been working almost every day of the month, and we run approximately about 60 to 100 kilometers a day. They have been very satisfactory and pretty good and robust vehicles.
We are also looking forward for a stronger partnership with ETrio so that we can scale up the operations of retrofitted EVs in the last mile delivery and make this solution available to all the e-com players and to all the customers who are environment conscious and who are environmentally responsible.
Every client has a different requirement, whether it is high volume packages or heavyweight parcels. ETrio's eLCV is for all. Look at it here, beautifully gliding through the Indian roads. This ace of intra-city logistics is powered with a 20 kWh lithium-ion battery running on a high voltage 96 volt system. The vehicle delivers superior performance through a certified range of 120 kilometers. Don't worry, the real range is no less impressive, with the vehicle going over 95 kilometers with a 500 kg payload. The vehicle delivers a torque of 120 Newton meter and has a gradient of 7 degrees. Meant for our crowded Indian cities, the speed of the vehicle has been capped at 55 kilometers. The product delivers unwavering comfort and convenience for the end customer, the driver. It has an automatic driving system, which is finally freeing the driver or the customer from the clutches of the manual gear system. Our lightweight compact e-axle coupled with regenerative braking and high cubic feet capacity of 192 feet adds to the superior design of the existing Tata Ace. Our connected systems helps to check the health of the component and discover various patterns to improve vehicle and the component efficiency. One key distinguishing point is the ECUs in the systems being connected through a CAN-based system architecture, which allows the telematics unit to transmit the data to a remote server. Today, we have an in-house telematics app called ETrio Track, which showcases data comprising of the following aspects. Number 1 is the vehicle metrics, including SOC, odometer, speedometer. Number 2 is the characteristics or the metrics regarding different components using advanced state-of-the-health algorithms. We monitor components like cell, motor controller, and look at metrics around temperature, voltage, and current. We take immense care as far as vehicle reliability and safety is concerned. Let me first talk about the warranties, which we offer through our eLCV. Today, I'm very happy to announce that we have the best-in-class unmatched warranties. Let's talk about the batteries. The warranty is 5 years or 1.3 lakh kilometers. It is the same for the powertrain. Coming to the electronics, the warranty period is 3 years or 1 lakh kilometer, and for various other auxiliaries, it's 1 year. Coming to safety, safety is deeply embedded into the design DNA of the vehicle. We look at safety at 2 levels, the vehicular and the component, and we take care of every component, right from the cell, the battery pack, the powertrain, and similarly other components in terms of ensuring safety. As mentioned previously, the need to pursue retrofitment in a process-oriented way is immensely vital to establish a reliable product in comparison with a well-proven ICE product. At ETrio, we call it the science of retrofitment. This encompasses 3 critical aspects of design, testing, and production. Let me start with design. Our 96 voltage architecture allows for an efficient system design with lower overall losses. The primary design objective driving ETrio day in and out is efficiency and minimization of losses, whether that be at the component level or at the vehicular level. As a new EV company, we look up to companies like Tesla and get inspired by how they achieve significantly higher powertrain efficiency as compared to competition like a Nissan Leaf or Bolt EV. We deep dive into forecasting different losses, empirically, digitally, as well as based on testing conditions. The losses which we monitor range from motor core losses, the drivetrain losses via bearings, lubrication, etc., or even smaller losses such as controller switching losses. Different efficiency maps across torque versus speed characteristics are digitally and physically tested to ensure efficient performance across different real-life load conditions. We select our cells carefully, looking across the 4 different dimensions of durability, safety, specific power, and energy density. Coming to the battery packs, they undergo rigorous thermal chamber testing, vibration testing, real-life load conditions simulations, and active cooling mechanisms to ensure battery health and safety under demanding Indian road conditions. Coming finally to the vehicle integration, it's done at 3 levels: mechanical, electrical, and software. Software integration is implementing using the CAN network across all the ECUs to entail multi-directional smooth communication. The testament to the robustness of a product is in its DNA to withstand. Our eLCV has undergone extensive testing at 3 levels of component, bench, and vehicle. It has undergone over 16 plus tests over 1.5 lakh kilometers and has been certified by ICAT. The various tests done include flood test, EMI EMC compliance test, power test, brake test, and tests like range, gradability, and energy consumption. The bare-bone nature of the original vehicle, coupled with a robust design and exhaustive testing done at ETrio, has rendered this eLCV the ace of intra-city logistics. ETrio's science of retrofitment finally concludes with a structured 5-step production process which breathes new life into an old workhorse. ETrio's retrofitted eLCV has evolved from its predecessor to become more tailor-made to real-world client requirements. We have driven improvement in performance by increasing the powertrain efficiency by more than 5%. We have redesigned battery pack for lower insulation losses, optimized e-axle and gear ratio, and reduced the overall vehicle weight. All these harmoniously have contributed towards vehicle range improving by more than 15% between Generation 1 and Generation 2. Today, as I stand here, we launch our Generation 2. We are simultaneously working on a Generation 3, wherein we will be transitioning to a higher efficient PMSM motor, a liquid-cooled battery pack, and of course a higher range. Having built this product with great care and rigor, we quickly realized that it's not just the product which leads to an EV adoption, but building a holistic ecosystem to enable the change at the ground level. For this, we stepped out of the skin of a typical OEM and partnered leading logistics players to implement this change. We did this through a 4-pronged approach covering comprehensive vehicle after-sales support, including support for charging, as well as 24/7 service support. I'm proud to say that we have a unique driver orientation and training program. Along with that, we have a comprehensive AMC package. Most importantly, we have a data-driven analytics support to drive operational efficiencies for our logistics players. Let me take you deep into this. Today, we perform comprehensive analysis around driving pattern and driver behavior to build first-of-its-kind driver scorecards, which help logistics player to rate, recognize, and incentivize drivers. Our inbuilt safety features include GPS, geofencing, remote immobilization, and driver SOS systems. These features enables a blanket of safety for each stakeholder. It also helps us understand and improve the product through remote diagnostics and proactive maintenance. Let me now answer the question on everyone's mind. How much does it cost to own ETrio's electric LCV? The price of this product, this ace of intra-city logistics, is 7,75,000 on-road Delhi. Does it seem expensive? Let me tell you, it is not. If you have been tracking the EV prices as compared to the diesel counterparts, you would realize that this is way better than most other products in the market. And let me now take you to the TCO battle, the battle for the total cost of ownership, because it's not just the upfront price, but the complete price over the vehicle life cycle which matters to the owner, to the user of the product. So let's look at this TCO race. This race will have 3 stages. Stage 1 is the upfront cost, which I just revealed. Stage 2 is the operating cost of the vehicle, and stage 3 is the terminal value of the vehicle. So let's start with the upfront cost. Today at 7.75 lakhs, this price, and let me also tell you, this price includes a fully built with a full load body retrofitted eLCV. The comparative price of a diesel counterpart with a similar fully built body would be around 5.25 to 5.5 lakhs. So that's the first stage of upfront cost. Let's now get into the operating cost. This is the stage where the electric LCV significantly outpaces, overtakes the diesel counterpart. Let's look at the 2 components of this stage. One is the running cost. Running cost, as we know, today has been the biggest pain point for any diesel commercial vehicle owner. With the mileage of the vehicle going significantly down with age and the diesel prices spiraling without any end in mind continuously, it's become a cost which is burning holes through the pockets of every owner. Today, in terms of running cost, electric LCV, today what we are launching, saves 3.5 to 4 rupees a kilometer for the owner over a diesel counterpart. Let's now come to the maintenance cost, the second part of the operating cost of the vehicle. maintenance of an electric vehicle, any electric vehicle, is significantly simpler and cheaper as compared to a diesel counterpart. This is due to the fact that the moving parts in an electric vehicle are much lesser than that in a diesel vehicle. So we are also looking at saving of around 50% of maintenance cost in the electric vehicle as compared to the diesel vehicle. So this is stage 2, where we see almost 60% of the cost which is spent on a diesel vehicle is saved when you own our electric LCV. So let's look at the stage 2. Conclusively, we are seeing that the electric LCV outpaces the diesel counterpart on both the maintenance cost as well as the running cost. Cumulatively across stage 1 and stage 2, definitely we can see that there is a distinct advantage of the electric LCV over the diesel counterpart. Across stage 1 and stage 2, a driver owner like Mohan would end up saving over 2 lakh rupees by owning our electric LCV. Now we come to the stage 3. This is the terminal value, residual value as we say in the market. This is where, of course, there is uncertainty in the EV ecosystem at large about what is the exact scientific way to determine the terminal value of an EV product today. Given this, at ETrio, we have significantly worked on this problem and tried to arrive at strong business models to estimate the life of different components and the vehicle at large. Today, we can assure you, and we are in the process of bringing buyback schemes to assure the end customer in terms of the residual value of the vehicle after a 5-year period. With this, I can confidently say that in the TCO battle, the ETrio's electric LCV is able to dethrone the diesel counterpart. I would now like to thank all the customers, the e-commerce players and the logistics players who have trusted us, accepted us, and all the participants who have come here to witness this unique event in the journey of ETrio and the launch of a product which is special for the intra-city logistics ecosystem. Thank you all. This is not a goodbye. We'll be back soon, and this time with an altogether different product. This is going to be our brand new electric 3-wheeler, Turo. See you soon.
My name is Anjaneyulu Protapalli. I am the CTO for the ETrio. We originally started to get into the shared transportation. We embraced what is called a circular economy. We were the first ones to retrofit the car and get certified. Now we changed the focus from shared automobiles to logistics. My interest especially is to make sure that India transition into EV space as quickly as possible. So the way we will conduct the panel, first we'll go to the battery pack manufacturers, then we go to the electronics manufacturer, and we give about 7 to 8 minutes for you to see where we are and where the future is in India and what each of you are doing in contributing to move the EV forward. So first let's go to the battery pack manufacturer and let's hear from him what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Kutrapalli. Myself, Yashodhan Gokhale. I'm Vice President for Octilion Power System. Innovation is one of the key for the Octilion Power System. We are 100% subsidy of the US entity. And one of the main thing is we make lithium-ion battery packs and BMS, which acts as a heart and brain for any electric vehicles domain, whether it is retrofitment, buses and trucks. We have deployed a large number of electric bus battery packs in India, which are first time liquid cooled with Indian conditions. So how can we take it, the Atmanirbhar, which is commonly used earlier by our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi ji, like for our problems, we have to solve by our way. So we have almost more than 200 megawatt hour assembly line in Pune, where we make the battery packs for the commercial vehicles and other segments. So one of the main thing is that we have to made in and made for India products. It's a new domain, but it's a need for the future. And the supply chain is slowly going in place. It's a chicken and egg situation at this stage with the high voltage system. And ETrio is doing a fantastic job with the retrofitment. That's a need, very cost effective way. Transportation from mobility from A place to B place. And the government institutes like the ICAT, ARI helping the automotive players, vendors, battery pack makers to have a good testing centers, basically, where ICAT played a key role in Pune, the ARI. We work with both the institutes. One of the main thing is we have to move towards the global quality by the local supply chain. And in Made in India movement help us, though we have a dependency with the neighboring country that will continue for a few years, but still the cell making, which is unique. At the moment, nobody is making lithium-ion batteries in India. So it's a matter of 4 to 5 years time that we will be self-sufficient of making the cells and making packs for our needs, basically. And where Lucas is playing a role by developing the motor controller and drive system. And two-wheeler, three-wheeler and bus segment will grow enormously in India when the public transportation is considered. And one of the key is we have many of the components with the power electronics, with the BMS, which acts as a brain, battery management system, which is all made in India, basically. And we have deployed then the data logger, and then telematics is also there by the various other companies. So this movement to build in India for the Indian products will help us to grow further. And the battery and the battery pack is one of the key major component which can help us to reduce the cost of any electrified segment.
We urge you guys to move fast, both with technology and with cost, because India is a very cost conscious place.
Right.
I think that we are in a way that India operates, the businesses operate, cannot distinguish between high technology versus the regular day-to-day things, because of cost point of view.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, sir. Like, we are trying to meet that target, having the local supply chain in place. So in the matter of a month or year time, we will close to that.
Great.
Yeah.
Next, the Lucas person, can you, Babu?
Thanks, Mr. Anjaneyulu and Yash. So before I talk on the powertrain systems, just take a minute to introduce my company. Lucas TVS Limited is India's leading auto component manufacturer, producing about 15 million machines a year, electrical machines. So when I say electrical machines, like starter motor, alternator, wiper motor, suspension motor, and name the motor that is there, what is primarily used in automotive applications. We have about 7 factories, and electrical products are produced everywhere, but EV products are produced in our Pondicherry unit. And we also have 15,000 retailers or touch points, which also gives good serviceability and support to the consumers. Coming to the intra-city logistics, on which Mr. Anjaneyulu started the discussion, I think it involves 3 formats of vehicles: two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and small four-wheelers, in my view, because some of the small parcels are handled by two-wheelers. I have seen like Super or Danzo and many guys carrying small parcels and two-wheelers. So all 3 formats might be relevant for the intra-city. And Lucas TVS is offering solutions in all these three segments. Now coming to the proposal of whether retrofitment or clean slate, both have specific benefits as well as need. India having a large vehicle park of 3 and 4 wheelers, a conversion offers a pretty good opportunity to not only for the business fraternity, but also for reducing the pollution. At Lucas TVS, we are initially focused on the clean slate development for new vehicles, but these products will be quickly offered to the retrofitment, because in retrofitment, what we miss is the ability to do extensive validation trials, because people in the retrofitment do not have the time. They are very quick in introducing the final product. So we work with both, and the clean slate development is a little more easier for us from the product development perspective. Coming to the products per se, there are hub motors, in-wheel motors, mid-drive motors, all these are offered for various applications. And in the technological side, like Mr. Anjaneyulu said, the traditional product has been an induction motor, so which is low cost, heavyweight, and bulky in size, low efficiency, but traditionally available. Now, the new concepts are BLDC motors and PMSM motors, which are compact, highly efficient, but comes with a big disadvantage of high power magnets or rare earth magnets, where we have a geopolitical dependency on China. Of course, there may be some numbers available from Korea or Japan, but I don't believe really they can give the volume. So therefore, as long as we use PMSM or BLDC, some dependency will be there on China. We are also working with some of Indian manufacturers in this domain and supporting them to do the validations. But it may take another year or two to have the same kind of quality and price. Price at the moment is not comparable. As you said, in case of full product, you said it is almost 1:2. So there are also some regulatory aspects which I will touch at the end of my. One part is the motor, because when we talk of the powertrain, most of the people think it is motor. Motor comes with a controller, which is primarily the electronics brain, which decides how much current and when to give to control the speed, power, torque, and whatever. I don't want to go too much into the details of technology, but in case of controller, we use different terminology like vector control, field-oriented control, and so on, to get the different torque and speed characteristics. But now I want to link the powertrain with the power pack or energy source, what Yash spoke a couple of minutes back. In an IC engine, you may have a beautiful engine, excellent carburetor, and a fuel injection system. Gasoline supplying pipe is throttling the supply, then the whole high-tech IC engine is useless, or they cannot perform to their full potential. So similarly, motor and controller, even though they have their own capabilities, they have to be matched with the battery for the discharge capability. For example, if you need a high acceleration in the high performance vehicles, the batteries should be capable of delivering 2C, 3C kind of discharge rates. So it's always an interplay between the powertrain and the battery pack maker. So we do keep in close contact with the battery makers to match the expectations. As far as our developmental approach is concerned, we started from the fundamental principles. So we do the system simulation. For example, if somebody says like ETrio asked for developing a powertrain, so we go by the vehicle weight, load, and the gradient needed, and estimate the power and torque, and then make the electromagnetics accordingly, and design the controller to meet those expectations, do the validation. So we go in the exactly same rigorous automotive way of developing products, whether it is two-wheeler, three-wheeler, or a small four-wheeler. Then coming to the other topic, which is on the productionization, which is key. We may talk a lot of things where we may project PowerPoints. Do we really produce in India? That's where is the key topic. So we have put money and invested in production lines, and we started manufacturing in our Pondicherry plant for three-wheelers, low-end three-wheelers. And this is both the motor and controller is manufactured. Further products are in the pipeline. Probably first quarter of next year, many more gets added up. So almost all components are locally made in the powertrain, except the magnets, which I said a minute ago. And other point is the electronic components like MOSFETs and others. Whether I do it or I outsource to someone, they all import these items. So here is the problem what I see, Mr. Anjaneyulu. See, when to encourage the quicker proliferation of EVs, government gave duty-free import of the complete product, like a motor and controller. If you're a manufacturer, you can get at zero duty. Whereas I pay 10% duty on the import of magnets, assuming they give at the same price. Of course, it is not. So here comes the cost difference. Same is the reality for the components. So we have also through ACMA and other domains, we have also represented for a level playing field. It is, we definitely need to encourage EV proliferation, and whether such key components where localization is still a long way to go, like electronic chips and MOSFETs. Nice to have, but unfortunately there is no real supplies. It may be only the traders what we have in India. I think Yash would agree with it for his BMS.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we can focus something more on these two domains, I think our Atmanirbhar Bharat will be much more effective.
The issue is what I see, and talking to various friends of mine here, one is the workforce, and the second one is the semiconductor manufacturing facility requires highly clean facilities and things like that. And it's a discipline of the workforce. So I think what Locus and any other people who wants to get into this space, they need to get into essentially how to assemble them, how to make a system out of components.
Mr. Anjaneyulu, we have 4 SMT lines and we manufacture complete controllers. But what I meant is, I can say controller is localized, but the large content of it is still import.
But I think that you have to live with it for some time. I don't think the focus trying to get into that. It's people have tried for a long time. I know it since the 70s when the manufacturing plant set up by AMI in Chandigarh, which got burnt later. But the key I want to emphasize is this space. Anybody can do retrofit. I mean, there is not a rocket science, like I said. Anybody can get into this space. The putting the system together, which is the key, like you mentioned, the battery pack, the motor, the controller, all working, talking to each other seamlessly.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the crux of the matter for the EV. And the emphasis should be in that, the integration and the system level integration. I think in India, the way the EV is going to expand, I think the EV, what my experience has been, this is the way to do it. You essentially, it's like Jugaad. Indian manufacturing system runs by Jugaad. They love it.
Yes, but you are absolutely right earlier. But in this space, when high voltage is concerned,
no,
there is
I'm
a battery.
coming to that. But we agreed. But many people don't understand this. So what is important here is that the manufacturers take the onus on them to make sure that these mom and pop shops, when they're retrofitting their autos or the cars or whatever it is, they really don't understand the technology involved in doing this. So the Jugaad may not really work as well in that context as it worked in IC engine systems. So anyway, let Bangalore person from Retrofit speak.
I think all the points that has been touched upon by you and Yash and Mr. Babu from TVS Lucas are very relevant. And I mean, I was just thinking, listening to you guys, that all of these points we have had I mean, I don't know whether it was fortunate or unfortunate. We have got a first-hand experience in all of these things. We learned it the hard way. So I'll just start with where we stand today and who is Cell Propulsion. So we are, as you rightly said, we are also in the retrofit domain as of today. But when we started around 3 years back in 2017, so me and the entire founding team of Cell Propulsion, we actually wanted to build our own electric four-wheeler. I mean, something like what Tesla did. But then, ground reality hit us very soon. We saw that the ecosystem doesn't exist here. Making a vehicle doesn't make sense without having a supporting ecosystem. If at the end of the day we had to import everything from, internationally, that was not going to work out for any of us. So, given the technical background, by the way, our entire founding team, we gained our initial experience working in Indian Space Research Organization. I personally worked in Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. So from there, we came on board together to build these entirely vertically integrated technology stack for electric vehicles, starting from the battery packs to battery management system to motors, controllers. We have done the prototype for low power, low voltage systems, and as well as high power, high voltage systems. In fact, with early this year, we completed a retrofit of one of Bangalore Metropolitan Transport Corporation's bus, which we converted into electric, which is running at a 600 volt system. So that is also under road testing. Anyway, the point is, first of all, I'll start with the commercial vehicle segment, which Mr. Anjaneyalu was talking about. We understood that commercial vehicle is going to be the gateway to mass adoption of EV in India. That is absolutely going to be the way how things are going to pan out for India, because of many driving factors that is there in the commercial logistics market. One is obviously a well-defined range requirement per day for the logistics operator. So the range anxiety issue doesn't come up much. Then because of the node-to-node logistics operation, the location of charging stations can be clearly planned out. So that's another thing. So there are multiple other aspects to it. Then the operation costs of electric vehicles are much lower, servicing requirements, downtimes are much lower. So because of this, it makes a very good case. Coming to what Mr. Yash was saying, our experience with high voltage system working with the electric bus project has been, to be very honest, I look into the technology development. I'm holding the position of being the CTO of Cell Propulsion. But, while doing the retrofitment, we were also, literally scared to handle a 600 volt system just like that and putting it on a moving platform and test it for the first time. But then absolutely a robust battery management system, saves the day for us. So that's what happened. And we are fortunate to have our own, control on the battery management system and the vehicle control unit. Coming back to Mr. Babu's point, the main problem where I see there is a roadblock, not a roadblock, but a hurdle to making everything in India is a huge gap in the engineering curriculum that is being done in India and what is the ground reality in the electric vehicle space. Like we have been facing, the hardest problem for us as a team is to really recruit the right person to build things for us. That has been the biggest problem. Building prototypes is okay, testing them is still okay, but getting the right person to really help us and grow the team has been the challenge. And we have actually worked with some colleges. We have given sessions on faculty development to improve curriculum, but I don't know how far that will go to help us. But all these factors came together for us to, it made only sense for us to have we don't produce anything, we are not into manufacturing. But as Mr. Anjaneyulu was saying, we have the complete technical know-how on the entire vertical technology stack. And I think that is absolutely essential to bring any value to the electric vehicle space, whether it's in the retrofitment or whether you're making a vehicle ground up. But at this point in time, it's absolutely necessary that the system, all the moving parts of system you're controlling or defining, and whether you're importing from outside some chips or microelectronics and producing it here, that is absolutely fine. But a bigger problem is right now that know-how gap, the gap on the know-how, the design talent. These things has to be filled up more quickly to really cater to the electric vehicle space. From what I know, I follow Tesla I'm a big fan of their products. I follow Tesla on a daily basis. From what I know, the only criteria that they have differentiated themselves is they have hired the right person at the right moment of time, and they got the right talent in place. This is something which I think is absolutely key and probably going to take us long way if we could close this gap of in talent acquisition.
It's really good to hear. Maybe I'll just like to tell about the ICAT, although maybe all of you know. So as a ICAT, we are a big homologation testing agencies. But in addition to the homologation, we are supporting a lot to all of our customers in development. In fact, especially in this domain, in one of our expo, we try to make our own retrofitted bus to understand the difficulties, the complexity of the project. Because if we know more, we can understand the issues and the gap between the regulations and the actual things which are happening. If you look at the government perspective, the government is also focusing a lot on terms of the localization. So you look all the incentive schemes, although those are not applicable for the retrofitment right now, because that may not be come into the view of the government. But still for the new products, there's a lot of emphasis onto the localization. I will also come to the Supratim's point of the know-how and the integration of the know-how within the India.
Yeah.
So I think recently in this domain also a big initiative has been taken by the DHL, and they have assigned the agencies like us a big task to make an e-portal. So what this e-portal is basically to connect all the people who are related. So this will be an open platform because we are the central agencies who know each of this. We know the vehicle manufacturer, we know the component manufacturers, we know the testing know-how also, we know the design institutes under the different forums. So through us, what they are leveraging is they are getting a portal developed so that all these stakeholders can come onto a single portal, single platform, and people can get connected to each other and get the solution of their problem. But of course, know-how is not like a theory classes. We all have to burn our hands ourselves to learn the things. So that is the fact of the life. In fact, we also had a lot of things done with the ETrio team during our various testing. Issues which they came, we also looked from the perspective of the customer, from the perspective of the regulation, and tried to meet those things. So currently, what I will say is, in fact, looking at various customer beds, yes, there is a focus in developing the know-how. There is a focus for the localization is also. Constraints is of course there, and everybody wants to do the things quickly. We don't have the time. That is the big thing to invest, but that is somehow not available with all of us as an Indian, because we are very hurry in doing everything. No patience. And but somehow it is good also if you look at, because due to that currently if you look at the EV market that has merged at a good speed, especially into the lower segment. And if you look the recent update of I think yesterday, the advisory which has come for the two-wheeler and three-wheeler, that they do not need the battery pack at the time of the registration of those vehicles.
Yeah.
So the logic is to give more independence to them, so that more variety of the EV powertrain come into the picture, and this roadblock of availability of the batteries or those things can be waived off in some or other way. So what I would like to say is that yes, Indian government is focusing to support the industry in all the ways by providing the incentives, by keeping the things under the regulation, because sometimes regulations are also required to channelize the things in the proper way. Otherwise, things become awkward. So in that aspect is also there. And I can assure the agencies like us, we are also there to cater all the needs in terms of providing the infrastructure for the extensive testing, in providing the infrastructure from the design perspective, so that all people can get together and we can definitely make the India as an Atmanirbhar country, the theme of the time. That's all I think from my side to begin.
I think some of the companies, especially locals, I think you should go out. IITs are too smart for their own good. Don't go there. They think they know it all. I think you should go to places like Gindi or MIT. I was a student at MIT, so now it's part of Hanna University. Go set up labs, and Bangalore the same thing. And then go take an engineering college. And I tell you, it's not the part of the student problem. Students are good there. Their IQ is much higher than anywhere else in the world, average IQ.
Yeah.
What you should do, you should set up laboratories, EV laboratories in these universities. And once you set it up, students will go and learn for themselves. You don't need no damn faculty. And faculty doesn't know much anyway to start with. So they are so enthusiastic to learn.
Yeah.
I think I strongly suggest that you set up these laboratories for them to get trained. It's the skill set you're trying to develop, not the degrees. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
So I want you to think about this, especially the young people, my good friend in Bangalore. I think that's what you should do. Go out. That doesn't cost a lot of money to set up. I set up a lab in Shenzhen myself. It doesn't take a lot of money to do it. What you need is a motor, variable speed motor, and you need a controller, and put all the thing together for less than $100,000, $150,000, which is not a lot of money. And alumni will give you the kind of money, and set up these labs and train the workforce.
Yeah.
Forget about the government. Forget about all this curriculum change. That is not going to happen anytime soon. I'll be dead by the time I see changes, the pace at which they go. So I think I strongly suggest the locals should do it in Pondicherry. Go ahead and set up a laboratory for an engineering school somewhere. It doesn't matter. But the people will come and learn. And your workforce problem, and they are very smart, incidentally. I mean, they are very clever. They will learn very fast. So your supply chain problem, and especially workforce supply chain problem, will be solved by setting up these laboratories in the various engineering colleges in the country and train them. And you'll have plenty of people and workforce.
Yeah.
I struggled with it in India. I mean, I went to a whole bunch of companies in India trying to get them. Power electronics especially is quite weak.
Yeah.
Their power electronics the training is based on the old school. They don't understand taking the TI microcontroller and try to build around it your own controller and things like that. That they don't, now they're beginning to teach them a little bit. So you need to get people, this is a field, and you should do it.
That's
and
very nice.
Any help you need, let me know. I will hook you up with people. In this country, a lot of Indians in this country are, like to help in doing this. And I think you should pay attention to this. The workforce is a big problem.
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to just add a couple of lines on what Mr. Anjaneyulu said. We have done three things. One, we have set up a office cum lab in IIT Chennai. This is to attract high-end talent. There are differing views about their talent and the retention capability. That is two coming as opposite to each other.
Yes.
So we are trying out, to be honest, out of the 10 or 14 what we had, already 4 left. So that confirms the strong belief system what is there in the general public. Okay, so this is one part. This is more for the power electronics and complete system integration point of view. It is not for electrical machines, because in electrical domain, fortunately, we have certain amount of in-house competencies. It's always good to add more, but at least in case of electronics and system integration, we thought we can leverage the IIT folks. This is one part. Then we have also tied up with the Pondicherry engineering colleges. So trying to upgrade the faculty skills and also to support people. Even our team goes there and helps in teaching them. Third, actually, to be more precise, this is where Lucas has been working. Of course, we need to drastically change this process. We are one of the biggest consumers of the workforce. So large amount of funds are spent in upgrading the polytechnics and the folks coming from the 10th or 12th or polytechnic area. So we are tying up with lots of polytechnics in improving their infrastructure. We ourselves in the TVS conglomerate, we have a training center to upskill the 10th pass-fail kind of candidates to learn trades like fitter, turner kind of things. This is more in generating the skilled workmen where we were focusing. Now we need to see the thinkers and innovators. That's where we have gone to the other end of the spectrum, that is to IIT folks. In between, we need to now strengthen our activities. That is the engineering colleges who come out of the engineering should also be able to think brave and come out with innovative ideas, because ideas can come to everyone. It has not only to the topper in the college.
No, I think what you need, basic intelligence, willing to learn.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's all it matters. I think that this business of you are overrated IITs recently, and I don't think you should pay too much attention to that. I mean, they're good people, they're very competent people, but their mission is very different. They are looking at Teslas, they're looking at all these other companies, and they think when you talk about EV, they start talking to you about Tesla. And you know, it's a different ball game. Indian context is not Tesla. It is not going to happen.
Absolutely.
That is not what you need. You need, like Supratam came from space agency. Look at ISRO. ISRO did not look at, they learned from all the things from NASA or space agency in Europe and all that, but they have Indianized it and have done well. And that is a model which you have to follow.
Yeah.
It is not, we don't have talent. The Indian IQ is by and large is one of the better IQs in the world. It is not the problem with the IQ. It is not the problem of the cleverness of the people. It is the problem of the systems we have set in place, which has not allowed them to flourish. Because we somehow gotten into this rut where, you know, this, if you look at the engineering curriculum today, because I try to do this for years now, and if you look at their curriculum, it is still the same curriculum which I went to school in early 70s when I left.
That's actually the problem.
I don't think, you know, it is the people, it is the system which is not geared to train the people for these new technologies.
Yeah.
And I think I want to urge you to pay a lot of attention to the workforce.
Yeah.
And your life will become easier if there's a good workforce. It's for your own good.
Yes.
Yeah, so your life will become very easy. Today, for example, you know, not many people knew how these batteries work, for example. The chemistry involved in it and the dangers involved in it, how to function with them. And they know chemistry. It's not that they didn't know chemistry, but they don't apply that chemistry to the systems we have right now. A lot of them know about lead acid battery.
Yeah.
A lot of experts in there in lead acid battery. But you tell them about the lithium ion, and they say, we know. Yeah, they did learn the words and the buzzwords, and they know exactly what it is and all that, but they don't know the difficulties associated with it in any case.
Yeah, we
Go.
really need to moving towards the global quality with the local brand is the
Yes.
one
Yeah.
of the key for everyone.
The conclusion is, I think we have enough industry now to understand the issues related to EV, and it is moving along well as compared to 3 years ago. And I think that more and more capital, people who put in capital should invest in these companies and encourage them to expand the capabilities of India to get into EV space. And I think my panelists will agree that is the case.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
we concur with you.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you very much
Yeah.
for all of you for your time.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining ETrio Presents ET Auto discussion on electrifying intra-city logistics. And I'm sure the experts and the panel members have been very focused and very elaborate in terms of pointing out the challenges and the opportunities, and also what are the ways and means we can reach the goal of electrifying intra-city logistics. The main points, concerns that were seen or raised by most of the panel members are the margins, acquisition cost, and the trust on electric vehicle in terms of reliability, or it comes to faster delivery of the goods. And we have seen also that there is going to be a multimodal vehicle need. It's not that a certain type of vehicle is going to play a role in the intercity logistic, but it is going to be combination of various types of vehicle. It could be two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and LCVs up to 1 ton. So those are some of the key aspects. However, we see that a lot of enthusiasm among the actual users as the policies have come, which are seen largely as a booster to the EV adoption. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this splendid discussion on one of the most pertinent subject of electrifying India's intra-city logistics. Stay tuned to ET Auto for more such programs and insights. Once again, thank you so much.